I'm Brittany Lewis with Forbes Breaking News. New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy made remarks on public service loan forgiveness at the College of New Jersey Monday. The Democratic governor highlighted, quote, an overhaul of the program to make more New Jerseyans eligible for loan relief and forgiveness. This comes as President Biden confirmed earlier this month that he's weighing canceling, quote, some federal student loan debt. Here's more from Governor Murphy's remarks.
Hello, everybody. Okay. Hi, Donna. Nice to see you. I've got my TCNJ rally towel here. Madam President, it's this weekend, Final Four?
This weekend, Final Four, women's lacrosse.
Women's lacrosse.
And beat the top team in the country to get in.
And where is it?
It's in Roanoke, Virginia.
Roanoke, Virginia. All right, we're all going to get in the shuttle after this and go down and see. Congratulations, and thank you so much for so graciously hosting us today. TCNJ is a gem. As you can see, it's a gorgeous campus. It's a great institute of higher education, and we've got a great women's lacrosse team to boot. Really honored to have the gentleman on either side of me here today. To my right, the Chief Operating Officer of the Federal Student Aid at the U.S. Department of Education, Ohio's own Richard Cordray. Richard, great to have you. And to my left, I lost the volume there, Undersecretary at the U.S. Department of Education, James Quall. Welcome. I don't think I'm supposed to introduce everybody, but what the heck, I am going to do it. Starting from the far right, my colleague. I think we've probably done 30 or 40 events since I've been governor, David Socolow, who's the Executive Director of the New Jersey Higher Education Student Assistance Authority, which rolls right off your tongue, otherwise known as HESA. David, great to have you here. Old Bridge Education Association President Andrew Lewis is in the house. Andrew, great to have you. U.S. Veterans Affairs Director of Geriatric Psychiatry, Philip Wong is with us. Philip, great to have you. You can never have enough Phillips.
Agreed.
To his left is FBI intelligence analyst Sierra Stancic. Great to have you, Sierra. Flipping over to the other side of James is a dear friend, Assemblyman Bill Moen. Bill, great to have you. New Jersey Department of Agricultural legal specialist, Allison Reynolds. Great to have you, Allison. And last but not least of all of us, the guy who has the most right to be here in this center on this panel, the College of New Jersey's own rising sophomore, Jared Williams. Jared brought his fan club with him this morning. So the cost of college loans is one of the starkest examples of the affordability challenge more broadly facing our state and nation. As the federal administration considers broad-based options for helping student borrowers, help is already available for many New Jerseyans, and that is via the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. A gem, but in many cases a hidden gem. The Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program, PSLF, allows people working throughout the public or nonprofit sectors to have that service credited against their outstanding federal student loans. This is open for any New Jerseyan working in federal, state, county, or local government, for those working in our public schools and colleges and universities, as nurses, first responders, National Guard members and other military, and staff members of nonprofit organizations. Many borrowers may not know that they qualify for loan forgiveness. There are roughly 31,000 New Jerseyans already enrolled in the program. So today is an opportunity for all of us to put this program under the spotlight that it deserves to raise awareness. I also want to give a shout out to our former Secretary of Higher Education and now oversees all of our policy, Dr. Zakiya Smith-Ellis is with us. And we have brothers and sisters of labor at a minimum. The president of New Jersey's AFT, Donna Chiera, is in the house. Donna, great to see you. We also not only want to shine a spotlight, we also want to highlight an overhaul of the program that will make more New Jerseyans eligible for loan relief and forgiveness. So a one-time waiver will allow anyone who worked full-time in a job eligible for loan forgiveness going back to October of 2007. So we're now going to go back 15 years to enroll in the program, even if they were previously told that they were ineligible. And if you had a combined 10 years of public service employment, you could qualify to have your federal student loan debt canceled and your payments credited back to you. Now, to accept this waiver, you must apply by October 31st of this year and go to studentaid.gov, studentaid.gov. More than 2,500 New Jersey borrowers have had their student loans forgiven, canceling out $167 million in student loan debt, which is an average of more than $65,000 per person. Additionally, thanks to these gentlemen and their great leadership, we're working with the U.S. Department of Education to streamline the application process for New Jersey state employees to remove administrative barriers that may have either disqualified some from receiving assistance or discouraged others from applying. We're also exploring opportunities to simplify the process for local government employees. Not a ton of detail on that yet, but we're working very productively with the U.S. DOE on that. I'm hopeful that this expansion on the one hand and streamlining of the public service loan forgiveness program on the other may also spur more New Jerseyans to consider a career in public service. We need smart and dedicated individuals willing to enter public service in whatever form to keep our communities strong. And reducing the weight of college loans is a vital part of making New Jersey, at the end of the day, more affordable. The Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program is here to help reduce this weight, not only so individual borrowers can meaningfully move forward, but that through their work, our entire state can move forward as well. So it's a real treat for all of the above reasons to be here today. I mentioned him already, the gentleman to my left. It's a great honor to welcome U.S. Department of Education Undersecretary James Quall to New Jersey, to the College of New Jersey. And with that, James, over to you. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Governor. And it's great to be back in New Jersey. And under your leadership, New Jersey has become a real leader nationally in college affordability, and a place that other states want to know what's going on, want to know what's happening in New Jersey. So it's great for me to be here and see that firsthand.
Great to have you.
I also want to thank you, Rich, for coming today. And since coming to run the student aid programs, Rich has brought a new set of values, a new set of energy, and I think the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program is a perfect example of the kind of change he's bringing to the student loan programs. For President Biden and Secretary Cardona, a college education is a really critical institution that our country has. It's hard to think of something more important for upward mobility, for equitable opportunity, for helping people live a better life than their parents did, than our colleges and universities are. And that's why it's so important to think carefully about student loans and student debt. Because for some of us, student loans have made college possible, made it possible for us to graduate. But we can't overlook the large numbers of people out there who have loans that they're really struggling to repay. And in some cases, are left even worse off than if they hadn't gone to college at all. So we need to be very, very serious in thinking about how we're going to address the challenge of student debt. And for President Biden, that means, first of all, trying to make sure students get the benefits that they're entitled to. And when Rich and I showed up, we found that we had hundreds of thousands of borrowers who were eligible to have their loans discharged because they were disabled. They were still paying on those loans. We've now discharged those loans. We had hundreds of thousands of borrowers who claimed they had been cheated by a for-profit college. We've discharged hundreds of thousands of those loans. We have more in progress. And the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program, which made an important promise to young people that if they spent their careers in public service, we would make sure those loans would be affordable and they would be canceled after 10 years. But only 7,000 people had ever received public service loan forgiveness. That number is now up to 130,000 with more than 1 million we're seeing progress toward cancellation thanks to some of the changes that Rich has overseen. So we're working really hard on the challenge of student debt. We're also calling for new investments in Pell Grants, free community college, similar to some of the work the governor has done here, stronger protections against colleges that leave students with loans they can't afford to repay, a new repayment plan that will be much more affordable for students. So it's an all-hands-on-deck effort here to do whatever we can within our power to make sure that loans are affordable and that people aren't left with debts they can't afford. The Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program is a really important part of it. It's very important to President Biden. And I'll ask Rich to talk a little bit more about the changes that he's implemented there and some of the progress that we're making. Thank you.
James, thank you. Amen to all of the above, and we share the exact same passions and priorities that the President and you and all the colleagues at DOE share. Please give the Secretary our best, by the way. With that, let's turn things over to the Chief Operating Officer of the Federal Student Aid Program within the Department of Education, Richard Cordray. Great to have you, Rich.
Thank you, Governor Murphy, and thank you, James. And we have developed a really strong partnership in the Department of Education between the Undersecretary of Higher Education's office, James's office that he heads, which sets policy in higher education, and my group, a fairly large group that executes on financial aid to students all over this country, which is a crucial avenue for many families to actually get a chance to climb the ladder of higher education and have the benefits of that. Initially, Governor, you worried me because you said you were going to introduce everyone, and I was remembering an event that I was at once with now Senator Elizabeth Warren, where she came to the event and she saw faces in the crowd that she knew, and she started recognizing and introducing specific people, and then she began to realize she was going to leave other people out. And she said, well, I can't cover everyone. And Senator Franken, who was at it, steps forward and says very sternly to her, name them all. So at least we didn't have to put you through the rickets of that. I just want to say, and James said it well, the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program, there's some important things to know about it. Number one, it was legislated by Congress 15 years ago, and it had a core promise. And I'm glad that AFT is in the House today because it rings in my ears what Randy Weingarten says about this program. She says it very simply. 10 years means 10 years. And if you put in 10 years of public service, you should get full relief on your loans. That was the promise Congress made. But as happens often in the government, not so fast. You have to have qualifying payments on a qualifying payment plan for a qualified employer, et cetera, and the next thing you know, it's all gummed up with bureaucracy and people can't find their way from here to there. That's why when James and I and the new Secretary of Education, Miguel Cardona, arrived at the department last year, there were only 6,500 people or so who had ever received forgiveness under this program, even though we're well beyond 10 years from when it began. And that was wrong. It seemed wrong to us. It seemed like the government had not fulfilled the promise that Congress made, and people were affected by that. There are people who have gone into public service because they believed that if they did that, after 10 years, their loans would be forgiven, and they were finding that they were being shortchanged on that promise. So, as James said, we're now up to, from 6,500, it's almost 130,000 who have been fully forgiven, and there's over 1 million others who have had their payment counts advanced toward the magic 10-year mark. About 1 million of them have averaged about a year of payment count updates, and about 250,000, almost 300,000, have now had more than 2 years added to their number, and they will get to the ultimate forgiveness sooner. And to me, part of what this is about is making government work. When government makes promises to people, we should be able to expect that government carries out those promises. And when it doesn't, it's our job to pile in and figure out why and fix the problem. And that's what we are working to do. We also got a big boost from the fact that President Biden and Education Secretary Cardona managed to secure authority to do the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Limited Waiver. That's kind of a bureaucratic term, but it has allowed us to cut through some of that gummy bureaucracy of the qualifying payments, the qualifying employer, et cetera, and get people the relief that they deserve. And people are seeing this and feeling this. I've asked our folks to give everyone involved a readout every 2 weeks of the stories we're getting back from people about the difference this is making in their lives. And it is profound. And when you read through those stories, and there's a pile of them every 2 weeks, it really makes you want to cry. And I do, because it is so moving that people they depended on this, they were relying on this, they were hoping, their hope was being frustrated, and now it's coming through. And that's what government should be about at its best, and that's what public service is about. And as Governor Murphy said, this is also about helping people see their way clear to spending time in public service, as I know we're going to hear from some of the panelists here, and the difference they can make in our society. It doesn't all have to be about chasing the almighty dollar. It can be about doing something for your fellow man and woman, and that's what many public servants base their lives about. There are some mechanics here. I want to go to the sheet to make sure I don't get them wrong. Governor Murphy, you and your folks here can help us by promoting the limited PSLF waiver and the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. We have a toolkit that can be shared widely. We have some blog posts and Twitter feeds and things that can be easily passed on. We need to get the word out to people. We are finding all the time that we have people who don't know a thing about this. One of the people who works with me went to a wedding a few weeks ago. It wasn't a wedding in his case. It was a soccer game, girls' soccer game. And he was annoyed because he ended up talking to two teachers who were for the other team, and the other team was beating his daughter's team's brains out. But he asked them about public service loan forgiveness. They didn't know a thing about it. He spent the entire time watching his daughter's team get their brains beat out, and at the same time explaining this whole program to them for 45 minutes. There are still many people out there who don't know what their entitlement is. Or maybe they tried before, and it didn't work out because the program was so gummed up. And now it can be different, but they may not believe it. We need to get the word out and tell them to try again. We need to make sure that borrowers have the information they need. We can work with states and you all to set up informational webinars. We're doing this all the time about PSLF and the waiver. We need to make sure that state personnel know that they can go to the PSLF servicer or the Ombudsman's office at the Department of Education if they have questions. Obviously, we can't take endless numbers of questions, but we do everything we can. States can simplify and accelerate employment certification by creating a process. A state government like New Jersey is a complicated animal. There are tons of different actual employers within the state government, within the counties, within the, what do you have here, townships?
You bet.
They're all different. They all have a different employer identification number in the system. And we need to make sure that they're all signed up so it's easy for people. These are things that we are doing, we are trying to do, but we need to do it in volume. And we are pushing hard. That's why we're here today. We're so pleased to be invited by the governor to speak and to speak with these panelists and students. The other thing is we know that Governor Murphy is special. He is the incoming president of the National Governors Association, correct? So I've asked him, I said, I'm sure it'll be a very easy thing to line up all the red state and blue state governors and unite them behind this. But if there's ever a program that could do that, this is one. It's about bringing money into the state. It's about getting loans forgiven for people who work for the government at all levels and in many nonprofits. And so we're asking you to help us pass the word through your colleagues around the country as well, because we can't be everywhere as we are here today, but we're very pleased to be here in New Jersey.
Thank you, Rich. I'm actually optimistic that the NGA, of which I serve as vice chair today and will become the chair in July, I'm actually pretty confident this is the sort of program that folks can get their arms around, because it's a win-win-win. And we've all said this in one way or another. Putting aside the burden that we can alleviate with folks who have a lot of student loans, this will have the absolute result of more people considering public service. which is exactly what this country needs right now. So to each of James and Rich, thank you so much. Amen. So I think the way this is going to work is I'm going to ask a couple of questions. James is going to ask a couple. Rich is going to ask a couple of our esteemed panelists, and then we will wrap up. So I'm going to start, Allison, with you. As I mentioned, Allison is in the Department of Agriculture, is a legal specialist, and as I mentioned, we're looking at ways that we can, working with the US DOE, to streamline the application process, and also what we can do in New Jersey inside of our four walls. One of the things that we're kicking around with these gentlemen and their team is a system that would automatically enroll eligible state employees who opt in. So I guess at a personal level, Allison, how would that have changed your experience of navigating the PSLF while also at the same time entering in the workforce? Great to have you with us.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. I guess it would have saved a lot of time on the telephone. When I started working for the state in 2011, I didn't feel like there was a real centralized source of information to tell me what I needed to do and that I was on the right track with getting into the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. I kind of felt like I was feeling my way in the dark, making sure I was on the right repayment plan, that the state of New Jersey was in fact a qualified employer. So if that process would have been streamlined as I was starting my career, it would have saved a lot of time and I guess given me a lot more confidence that I was on the right track.
When did you go through the process?
2011.
2011. So thrilled you went through the process, but you'd like it to be an easier straight line.
Yes.
We're better today, but not as good as we will be tomorrow.
Yeah, that's a good answer, actually. Great to have you with us. Bill, let's stay in this neck of the woods. Bill Moen, again, dear friend, assemblyman, as a legislator, and by the way, a PSLF applicant, what more do you think the state could do to help make this process a bit easier on you?
Thanks, Governor. Thank you for inviting me and to our federal representatives. Thanks for being here in New Jersey today. For those that do not know, I'm the son of a disabled Marine Corps Vietnam veteran. I think public service was instilled in me at a very young age. And so about 15 years ago, when this program was created, I was a sophomore at one of our great institutions, state institutions here in New Jersey, Rowan University. And I think that this program, the idea that this was occurring, pushed me in that direction and further affirmed the idea that it was possible for a kid from Camden County to pursue public service despite the fact that I was taking on student debt. And so with that personal story, but also, Governor, with the phone calls we get from countless individuals across the state that are having issues that are tied to this program and, frankly, student loan debt in general, it was important for the legislature to begin talking about this and figuring out what we can do. And so way back in 2020, under the previous presidential administration, when there was rumors or concerns that PSLF may be done away with, I sponsored a resolution that would urge Congress and the President to keep PSLF intact for future borrowers. From there, Governor, we've been working in this legislative session to do a few of the things that I believe Richard had mentioned, in addition to one of the last pieces that you just brought up as well. Those two things, while this in itself is such a largely at its heart a federal issue, there are certain things the state could be doing. Two that come to mind, and these are two bills I've sponsored. One would be, again, both are tied to like the communication piece of this. One would be to require that employers notify their employees of these programs that exist, which currently they don't happen. And as you've heard from the governor, one of the possible programs is to create more of an auto-enrollment opportunity. The other piece of it, if you think of the scope of this, would be to require our higher education institutions to inform their graduates upon graduation that this program exists. If you know individuals that are going into professions to become a police officer or a firefighter or a teacher or a nurse, then perhaps this is just one extra opportunity to ping them before they head out the door onto their careers with this information that will absolutely impact their lives in the long term. And Governor, I'll add one last thing to your point. The opportunity that exists for these students and ultimately the borrowers to step into this program and find themselves becoming the beneficiary of this program not only impacts them as an individual, but you can make the absolute argument that our economy, New Jersey's economy, the national economy, will reap benefits from this in the long term as well. Thanks, Governor.
That's a great point, the last one. I love the sponsorship of those bills. I gotta believe that's an example of both of those. The employer is required, and the graduate, Kate, on their way out the door, the institution of higher education is required to inform. I gotta believe those are two huge spotlights.
Absolutely.
If those were in place. So, Bill, thank you for everything.
Thanks, Governor.
And your leadership. I'm going to do one more and then turn things over to James. I'm going to go all the way over to the right to my colleague David Sokolow, who I mentioned already is the Executive Director of the Higher Education Student Assistance Authority, HESA. David, what are you guys doing and what can you do to help connect state employees on the one hand with PSLF on the other hand? And again, thanks for being here today.
Governor, thank you very much, and thanks so much also to our federal partners, to Undersecretary Qual and Chief Cordray for being here. We've been working in partnership since their announcement last fall of this expansion of retroactive ability for people to get PSLF. Really, it's incredibly important to get the word out, as we've got 5 months left till that October 31 end date. We need people to know about this. We have sent letters to 2 waves of letters so far, more coming, to borrowers around the Garden State that we know of that have federal student loans. And so we've been making sure that they understand what it takes to apply. We also talk to tens of thousands of individuals with questions about financial aid generally and about student loans in particular, who call our call center. We are the state financial aid agency, and we also work in direct, close collaboration with the institutions of higher education in New Jersey, in particular with the financial aid offices of 60-plus institutions, including the great executive director of financial aid here at TCNJ, Will Cassane, and all of his colleagues. And we have been getting the word out to all of them for months. Will attest to this. It's been in every single one of our presentations to them since last October to try to get the word about this. The other thing that we did is, HR managers of public organizations, whether they be governments, local, state, school districts, they have their own association. It is called the International Public Management Association for Human Resources, and they had a conference in April, and we went and presented there, and also invited FSA to present there as well, to really get the word out. They had not heard about PSLF. These are the HR directors of all of these public organizations. They are a force multiplier. If they can tell their workers that PSLF is available, those are people working in qualifying employment right now. And so we thought of that organization, which our HR manager happens to be involved in, and we thought we should use them as a force multiplier. We've also, of course, been collaborating with the great Assemblyman Bill Moen on his legislation, and look forward to continuing to do so, because Assemblyman, you've been a terrific champion on student loan issues in general, but this really is an opportunity for collaboration. So we will be doing more, Governor, and we hope that a greater awareness through events like this will have more people call. Obviously, they can call the federal government, but if they call the state government, there's no wrong door. If they call HESA, we can show them how to fill out these applications.
And are you seeing more volume and more interest?
We have. Since this waiver came about, our call center gets many more calls about this. This does, in fact, make people understand that they were previously told that they were in the wrong kind of loan or the wrong payment plan. And so notwithstanding working in public service, they couldn't get PSLF. And now that's no longer the case.
That's huge. I like the way you put it, Rich. Better than yesterday and not as good as it will be tomorrow. It sounds like we're right firmly in that camp. Thank you for that. James, over to you. I know you got a couple of questions.
I do. Thank you, Governor. And thank you to you, David, for all of your work to get the word out on this important program. I wanted to start with Andrew Lewis, and Mr. Lewis is a teacher in Old Bridge. And Andrew, I understand you also spend quite a bit of time helping your colleagues navigate the program. And I wondered, how do you reach out to people and encourage them to go through this process? How do you find people and how do you help them through? And what advice would you have for Rich and me?
Yeah, so I work closely with our NJA members. Oh, first of all, thank you for having me. I work closely with our NJA members who are college students preparing to be educators, as well as our early career educators. And so we host monthly webinars that kind of go over. There's actually 3 options for educators, public service loan forgiveness being one of them. Kind of explore, 3 options, how to navigate the maze of student debt. In the prior administration, I think I helped 2 people achieve public service loan forgiveness. Currently, the number has gone up. So far, the person that has received the most has been almost $100,000 forgiven as an educator, which is great. So we promote these webinars. We have a monthly magazine that goes to all educators in New Jersey that promotes public service loan forgiveness. Really just trying to get the word out so that our educators know this is out there and a way to have their debt forgiven after teaching for 10 years. And the great thing about public service loan forgiveness is that it's available not just for teachers, but for anyone who works in public education. So our ESPs are eligible for this program as well. So having their debt forgiven would be a great thing for them. And so I'm happy to help our members and hopefully myself in the fall receive public service loan forgiveness.
Love that.
Do me a favor, let me know how it goes.
You'll hear if it doesn't go well.
Dr. Wong is a doctor in the VA system here in New Jersey. And Phil, I was hoping you could talk a little bit about student debt and what you see as the impact of student loans on doctors' career choices and whether the public service loan forgiveness program is helping.
Thank you, James, and thank you, Governor Murphy, for hosting this event, and thank you, Rich. Really grateful for you guys for faithfully executing the reasons behind the PSLF. So I've been a physician for about 20 years, and I first got my real job when I was in my 30s, because education is so long. And as you mentioned, without student loans, I really wouldn't have been able to get any education. I was raised by a grandmother in an immigrant family. So this is really an essential means by which there is upward social mobility and by which we identify talent. And the reason I'm a physician at the Department of Veterans Affairs is because of the purity of mission that the VA has. It's something that's been ingrained in me ever since I was a kid. The guys are coming back blown up, or our aging veterans are developing Alzheimer's at a very significant rate. So then how do we keep folks who are highly trained, who are really, really good at what they do, doing this kind of work when private sector offers maybe 30% more in salary? So it becomes a practical consideration, basically, right? Because we start having family, having kids, and then you got to think about their college tuition. So for physicians, the pull between the purity of mission and the practicality of paying off $500,000 in loan becomes a real calculation. So, I've looked at this program over, past 7 or 8 years, but really wasn't able to understand it or grasp it because of all the nuances until last October. And that's a credit to you, Chance. So thank you. And having this as a means to eliminate a very significant portion of the debt, I think it's really a tremendous incentive for guys like me to stay and do what we love to do. And also, I think it's fundamentally it's an investment, right? What are we investing in? Are we investing in just the financial markets? I think the best kind of investment that we can engage in is in our people, right? Raising new talent and just encouraging folks to maintain that purity of mission and really reasons to take care of those who are wounded. So, that's about it. Thank you.
Well done.
That's it for me.
That's it for you, James. Rich, you got a couple of questions, I know. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, and I can't help but make a few observations. So Dr. Wang, a medical professional who deals with very complex things, and yet you found the PSLF program baffling. That says it all, doesn't it? Bill, what you had to say about the prior administration worried about whether they would kill off the public service loan forgiveness program. The good news was it was too ineffective to be worth their time. But now that's no longer going to be true. So, there will be a target on our back as we do this. At the same time, we're creating ambassadors all over the country to say, I did it, you can do it. This program works, and it works as intended to get people into public service and let them see the rewards of doing that work. I get the chance to ask a question to FBI Supervisor Intelligence Analyst Sierra, and I'm going to ask you, what made you want to go into the government? All of us have our own stories, but we're interested to hear yours. And what did it mean for you to potentially have access to the public service loan forgiveness program?
Sure. Thank you so much for having me. So I'm originally from New Jersey, grew up in Marlton, and was a freshman in high school during 9/11, and distinctly remember that day being in class. I already wanted to serve the government that day, but after that I was very, very focused on going into national security. And so pretty much all of my efforts during high school and undergrad were to essentially do that. And being a first-time graduate of college within my family, I had to finance the entire situation. And so going through this program, really, especially recently with some loans forgiven, helped me pay off a big chunk of my private student loans, which are less forgiving, no pun intended. But it helped me really prioritize my efforts so that I could serve my country and make a difference, and also pass that along to future generations. So as I became a supervisor, I was involved in a lot of recruitment events and hiring and interviewing, and this was always one of those issues that I wanted to bring up and not lose faith in. And I distinctly remember being in Quantico, emailing my entire class, asking them to sign up for PSLF, so that if it did happen, we would all be a little bit better off and focus on establishing our careers. And like Dr. Wong said previously, in professions where the private sector does pay more, and so trying to recruit talent to serve their country in a very competitive industry in intelligence and national security, this program will be instrumental in recruiting and retaining that talent. Thank you again.
Well done.
Thank you. And for everybody here who has high ideals about public service and what it is and what it's about and why it's worth devoting our careers to it, what does it say about that if you have a government program like this that in fact is all screwed up for people? I mean, that is not going to reinforce the ideals and beliefs that public service as a career is the way to go. So it's incumbent on us to show that this can work, and that's what we're trying to do. I also get a chance to ask what I assume is the youngest member of the panel, Jared, a question. You're a rising sophomore, majoring in political science, and I understand they tell me that you hope to go into government one day.
Yes.
I hope this will reinforce that objective rather than, and I believe it will. But tell us about what you want to do when you graduate.
Thank you, Chief Cordray. Thank you, Undersecretary Qual, and thank you, Mr. Governor. And also thank you to the College of New Jersey for this wonderful opportunity. And to answer the question, what I aspire to do after college, I would love to go to law school and practice law. But my main goal is to be an elected official in government, to really be able to give back to my community in any way possible, because, community is really why I'm here. It's really how I thrive. So being able to give back in any manner possible to ensure that they can have the resources necessary and to really be able to give back in that manner is extremely important to me, which is why I would love to enter the field of government, and also why this is such a great program, because it truly is inspiring and it provides me with even more incentive to continue down the path that I already plan to travel down. And I also know that it's encouraging to the millions of students across America who want to enter the field of public service. So I really do thank you for this program, and thank you for this wonderful opportunity to really bolster the efforts to promote the program. Thank you once again.
And by the way, you say that you intend to go to law school. The little secret is a lot of us up here actually are lawyers. We don't necessarily broadcast it, but it's a good credential for public service. I wanted to recognize another person with a law degree in my office, Ashley Harrington, who is heading up our public efforts to promote public service on pre-business programs. I thought you were here. You might have gone out in the hall and been working, which is natural for you. And Jared, just as a follow-up, does hearing about this program today and the people on the platform and in the audience who are doing public service in so many different ways, does that help you solidify a decision that you're on the right path?
Absolutely.
Hoping the answer is yes.
Yeah, it definitely is. It definitely is because, it really does provide even more opportunity for me to make a living when I enter the field of government because, a lot of the positions that are able to qualify for the PSLF program are typically positions that may be low paid, yet they're significant and essential to the community by providing, that impact of serving the community. So it really does provide, students who graduate with that opportunity to have that loan forgiveness because, we're all aware of the overwhelming expense college is becoming and that, a lot of students are graduating with debilitating debt. So being able to be a part of a program like this, especially following your passion to enter government, it truly does help out and it definitely solidifies my decision to enter government. So once again, thank you for this opportunity.
Yeah, I've heard what we do referred to at times as psychic income, but there's no question it makes our country strong to have a strong foundation of public servants propping it up and building it. So thank you. I'm looking forward to joining with you. Thank you.
Jared, we'll do some business in front of everybody. Zakiya, can you raise your hand? Make sure you go over and talk to Zakiya after this is over. We may have a little spot for you somewhere in the operation. What a treat. I actually walk away today with a real sense of optimism. It feels like there's only one way for this to go, and it's straight up like a rocket. Given the streamlining, given the spotlight that you all are putting on it, great leadership at the federal level, bills like the bills that Bill is. Well, that's not easy to say. I'd take the how much wood could a woodchuck chuck before the bills. But what we could do, and Dave, what you're doing, what we could do inside of the four walls of New Jersey. So really honored. Kate, thank you so much to you and Team TCNJ for hosting us so graciously and for all you do. To all the educators out there, we got NJEA up here to my right, we got AFT in the house. To all of you who have chosen this profession, it must be said, particularly in an institution of education, thank you for doing all that you do. Again, remember for that one-time waiver, studentaid.gov by October 31st. That's a big deal. It gives you 15 years of look back that can be transformational in a lot of the lives of folks who have put a lot of debt on their books. Again, to James Quall and Richard Cordray, thank you, gentlemen, both for your leadership, for being in Jersey today. You're making a huge difference. Left to right, Jared, Allison, Bill, Sierra, Phil, Andrew, and David, to each and every one of you all, deep thanks for what you're doing, not just by being here today, but by your service and the careers and professions that you've chosen, but also by helping us shine a light on this extraordinary and important program. As they say in Hollywood, it's a wrap. Thank you, everybody. Here we go, TCNJ this weekend. Get your rally towel.